Good morning, Chloe. Happy first day of spring. Do you like my new glasses? I like my new glasses. Also, today is World Storytelling Day, which I didn't know until now, but I'm really glad that I know now. So we've got a couple things to talk about, and all of them have to do with Tolkien, I have much. This is a little less than half of my Tolkien books. So I saw on Twitter yesterday, I'm pretty sure I retweeted it, you can go check if you would like to, that Tolkien translated Beowulf, which I didn't know until now. And he was reluctant to have it published. Well, it's being published now. May 22nd, I think, is the date that it's being published, but I'm really excited! And there's this big old thing about wondering how he translated the very first line in the poem, which is evidently like a huge deal for Beowulf people, but I don't know because I don't actually know anything about Beowulf. But I will, because Tolkien. Tolkien is my favorite author, but like all heroes, they are flawed. Tolkien was a human being, and he was a flawed human being, and I have to accept that. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today, is Tolkien's biggest flaw, in my opinion. Disclaimer, before I get into my rant and everybody gets mad at me, I would just like to remind you that racism does not have to be intentional to be racism. So it's really hard to say these kind of things delicately, so I'm not going to. A lot of what Tolkien wrote was kind of pretty racist. Basically, what it all boils down to is in especially the Lord of the Rings trilogy, people who are good are described as being light-skinned, and people who are bad are described as being dark-skinned. And I'm not just talking about the orcs, though they are described as having dark skin. The people from south of Middle-earth and the people from east of Middle-earth who all join up with Mordor are described as having darker skin. Now, as always, the truth resists simplicity, so I'm going to provide you with a little bit of factual information before I make my analysis of this whole situation. And another quick disclaimer, none of what I'm saying is trying to excuse racist tendencies. I'm just trying to explain them. Number one, Tolkien was born in the 1890s in South Africa. Now, in the 1890s, South Africa was a British colony that had slaves. Matt from the future here. I said slaves. What I meant was indentured servants. And I know that doesn't sound that different, but when we're talking about stuff this important and this dramatic, it's pretty different. So he the first part of his childhood was spent in South Africa. So that's important to remember. Second piece of information, this is about his kind of Lord of the Rings universe. The Lord of the Rings was created because Tolkien didn't feel that there was enough English mythology. Like all the mythology, Greek, Roman, Norse, things like that. No English. So the purpose of him creating this whole Lord of the Rings universe was to create a universe that reflected England. So that might explain why all the good characters and the native characters of Middle-earth are described as having light skin. Right, now onto the whole racism thing. As I see it, there are two kinds of racism. There is internal racism and there is external racism. Internal racism is unavoidable. It's literally everybody is internally racist. Everybody. It's literally unavoidable, and I'm not saying that it's a good thing because it's not. I'm just saying it is a thing. External racism is like the people who do hate crimes, like the KKK and other racist organizations. And for the most part, I would say that external racism is totally incurable. Like, there's no way you're going to make them believe that all skin colors and all nationalities and things are like equal because they hate them so much that they're doing violent things against other races. It's just not possible. And that's a horrible, horrible thing, but it just is. Now, internal racism, I believe, can be cured through discussion and constructive dialogue, acquiring world experiences and things like that. But here's the thing. In the early 1900s, nobody was doing that dialogue. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. That's not true. But, like, for the most part, people were racist. And that's how it was. I think Tolkien had a pretty heavy case of internal racism. And it just goes to show that it's not like smart people aren't racist and dumb people are racist. Because Tolkien was a very intelligent individual, but he still had this kind of huge flaw. Because nobody around then was creating that kind of constructive dialogue that would cure that. Chloe, as you probably know, I hate racism. It's stupid, it's pointless, it doesn't get anything done, and literally zero good things come from racism. However, we have this tendency as a culture to look at our heroes, and if they have like a huge flaw like that, to completely cut them off from everything that we do, and to kind of mock people who don't do that. But I'm not gonna stop reading Tolkien for the same reason I still like Ender's Game, even though I don't agree with Orson Scott Card on all of his political views. Because I think the good that the Tolkien universe creates is more than kind of the bad stuff that goes along with it. I think the purpose of the story has a greater purpose than its flaws. Now, if somebody suddenly found out that Tolkien wrote a letter that's like, I hate dark-skinned people, and The Lord of the Rings is my reflection of that, and I would not know what to do because I love the story, but that would be so horrible that I probably wouldn't want to read it anymore. And I don't think that'll happen because I feel like he didn't actually feel that way, because again, I think it was internal racism, not external racism. But until then, I'm going to continue to read his books because I think that the stories that he created are too important to us as a culture, to me as an individual, more important than the flaws that come with them. So that is my short explanation on the racism of Tolkien and context behind it, and why I will still read Tolkien. If I missed something in my argument, we can discuss it, and people who watch this, we can discuss it down in the comments, or you can contact me, because I'm sure I missed something, because this is a short little video. But Chloe, I will see you on Tuesday.